Here we are back at it again, and we're getting really close to what I would call an almost finished cabin. So what I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to take all the stills I took over the course of about, I don't know, 10 weeks, well, actually 3 years, building the cabin to the finished product, and then I'll end the video with a really nice walk around to show what the final thing looks like. But it is so great to be back up here. It's been raining all day, so I haven't shot any video till just now, but it's going to be, and it is, a beautiful day, great for the trees, and we'll walk back in to the place now. The next few episodes, I'll go through and completely explain what I did with my electrical system, how the water works. I'll even do a full interior video to show how I put the inside together and had it finished up the way it is now too. So enjoy the video. I'll do a bunch of commentary voiceover to make sure that you can see exactly and understand exactly what I did to make this. And again, I'm going to remind everybody, not a carpenter. I'll explain a little bit more of that. The way this all began was back in 2019. I was really getting into a lot of different outdoor shows like Alaskans, Alone, anything that had anything to do with being outside, building your own, cabin, just being in nature. And so back then I started looking for some property for our family. And a few of the requirements that we had is we needed, old growth forest. We wanted to have water on the property. We wanted to have 40 to 50 acres. And most importantly, it had to fit in the budget we had set for ourselves. And so over the course of about a month, we had looked at a bunch of different pieces of land, and we found this one that we're currently on. And the only thing that it didn't check, or the only box it didn't check, was there was no water. There's no river, and there's no ponds or anything on it. So it was the one sacrifice we made, but it hit and checkmarked all the rest of the boxes. And I think I've told you before, this particular piece of land is almost 20 miles of gravel off of the nearest paved road. So we are very remote when it comes to that. So COVID came along in 2020. We bought the property in April. And May 5th is when we started the build of this place. So I'm gonna turn it over to the stills that I'll roll through, and I'll commentate on top of those just to let you know exactly how we did this. But before I do that, I'm not a carpenter. I know I said that in the intro, but even more so, I want to emphasize that. I am a farm kid from the middle of nowhere in South Dakota, so I did have some basic knowledge of mechanics, building, things of that nature, but I've never attempted to do anything like this, besides maybe a treehouse as a kid. So when I got started, what I did is I decided how big I wanted it to be and the basic idea of what it looked like, and I started sketching on a notebook. And before I would come out every week, and incidentally, I would come out Friday afternoon around between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, work all night Friday night, spend the entire day Saturday working, and then Sunday work till 5 or 6, go back to my regular full-time job. And incidentally, I am a white-collar worker and redneck by night. I prefer this lifestyle, but I've got a couple of kids in school, and I need to make sure that I get them taken care of. So I sacrifice to be in the city during the day or during the week, and on weekends, this is my reward for doing that. And in a few short years, I'll retire to this particular property. But going back to that, I sketched out what I wanted the place to look like, and that's how I came up with my materials list. What type of materials I was gonna use, what size, and every week I went home. So first week, what did I do? I drew out what the foundation and the main floor was gonna look like. Did the math, figured out how many feet of board that I was gonna need, how many nails, all of these things, and that's all I did. Went to Home Depot, Lowe's, and bought all the materials that I needed to get the thing started, came out here, started building. Went home, started drawing again what the next week was gonna look like, which was building walls. Figured out how many feet of board I was gonna need, went to Lowe's, Home Depot, boom, came back out the next week with just enough materials to do each one of my steps in this. And so I'll jump into that and you can see that, but it was just little baby steps all along. And eventually it turned into what I'm sitting in now. So hopefully it'll inspire some others. You'll see the step-by-step of what I've done, and I look forward to hearing some comments and maybe some other ideas. There are very few things about this that I would change, and what those things are, I'm not going to tell you anyway. Thanks. Finding the right property is really one of the most important things in staying within your budget. We looked at this property with our family and made sure it was the right thing for us and what we wanted to have. Once you've got your land picked out, the next thing you're going to have to do is find a suitable site to put your cabin or shed and start the clearing and cleaning process. You can see that this particular piece of land was quite a mess, a lot of dead trees, a lot of downed trees, and everybody got involved and helped out. And you see the girls here pushing down trees and moving things around to make sure that it was correct. Once we have the land cleared, we have to decide the orientation of the building, and that's what we're doing here. The girls are actually pretending to be a fireplace because that's where it currently sits in the cabin. But you can see we've marked everything out. Again, everybody got a buy-in, and from there, it was time to start building. This was our first weekend here when we decided to build the site, and you can see we've got it all marked out. And how I put the footings in was I dug holes, put 50 pounds of pea gravel, then a flat 2-inch thick by 16 by 16 piece of concrete, and then these pilings on top. And it should keep this from sinking at all or heaving, and in 3 years, nothing's happened. The old man you see in the video is my dad. He was 84 at the time, now 87. And then we went on into building the structure to put the floor on. These are 2x8s that are glued and screwed together in the middle. So really they're 4x8s, the whole length of it. And then on top of that, we're going to start doing our floor joists. And here you can see floor joists in place and me standing on top to say weekend 1 complete. Well, I got my first helper on weekend 2 that we came up, and this is my older daughter who's now 17, and she helped me finish the floors. She did all the gluing, and I did all the nailing. Then we went on to put in the walls, and you can see we did them in sections to make sure that they were manageable for the two of us to put up, and it should be all to spec for sure, but by the end of week 1 or weekend 2, not only did we have all 4 walls up, we then started to work on the loft area and start putting in the upper floor joists. And here you can see we've got those finished with, again, another heavy beam going across, but all 2x8. The upper floor joists were supported by additional 2x4s next to the wall studs. And you can see in this picture how the joists are actually sitting on top of those, so they're screwed into the main wall and set on top of the 2x4s. And there's the end of week 2. Week 3 started with another helper, my now 16-year-old daughter, Addie, helping me out. And here's where we put in the kind of the structural supports for the roof. And it's a 12-12 pitch. So I used these 2x4s screwed together to create, I guess, posts in the middle and both ends. And then I, again, glued and screwed 2x8s together to create a really strong beam to go right down the roof line. And in a few of these pictures, you can see, like this one, how that is supported. And that's what I'm going to attach my rafters to. Now the rafters are starting to go on. And again, it's a 12-12 pitch to make sure that we can have the snow slide off this, because there are heavy, heavy, heavy snowstorms up here where we can get feet upon feet of snow. Slow process, but again, this was week 3 now, and we already have walls, rafters, floors, foundations all taken care of. Week 4, it was time to start putting the sheeting on the walls and on the roof. I did use MDF on these, and it was a tongue and groove type MDF, so all the pieces locked together at the seams, making it more, or I guess less apt to have any kind of leaks in the roof itself. And I don't recommend straddling your roof like that when you're 15, 20 feet in the air, but it worked, and that was the end of week 4. Week 5 was starting to put in the gable ends. You can see here where I had some windows set up to go in, and there you can see them. Finished sheeting the entire house, and had to build my own triangular windows. It was a requirement of the wife, so I cut them from sheets of glass that I had, created a frame, and put them on in. So that week, we were working pretty hard at getting windows in, getting the Tyvek on, and wrap the whole place, along with the heavy tape that goes around the windows, again, to help seal it. So this place, that's one wrap that goes all the way around the house in one shot. So in this week, we not only got the house wrapped, we got all the windows in and taken care of. Week 6, the metal roof went on, and you saw my wife there helping me with that. And at this point, we are fully dried in. Windows are all taped off. The wrapping is on, the metal roof is on, and it's time then to put in these windows. And here I am working on the glass windows that I made myself, and I've got an additional helper this time. My daughter Stella's with. Yep, perfect.
It fits, yay!
I could even bring it down a tiny bit, so.
You can do that?
No.
No?
Another weekend, more work to be done. Here we are getting the siding put on the place, and this is just 1/4 inch, plywood that we used and nailed onto the sides. And then I did my own milling of wood, and you'll see that in a second. And I milled the corner pieces to the house, and I'll give you a better look at that in a minute. But then it was time to get a deck, so we didn't have to be crawling up stumps to get in and out of the place. So we did a deck along the entire south-facing side, and now it was time to sit and relax. Here you can see it was time now to start getting some electrical going in there, and I put up a couple of, or I guess it was 400-watt solar panels, and they were really helping with light at night. But we've got a good view now, and now you can see the staining is starting to take place of the outside. So my wife and daughter, Addie, came out, and they stained the entire place along with the deck to get it ready for our first winter. And there's Susan working on the back side of the place, getting it all stained up. And there you can see a little better view of the trim that I did of live edge with my own Alaskan chainsaw mill. Well, I know this isn't part of the cabin, but you got to have a nice fire pit if you're going to have a nice cabin. So the girls built one of those up for us as well. And slowly but surely, it's getting more and more livable by the day. Well, we're now into the next year, and this is May the following year, and we decided to extend the deck off the front of the place. So now the deck is going to be a heck of a lot bigger, and we're going to have more places to sit and relax. And I know you've seen in some of my other videos me sitting having coffee, but there you can see it's finished, and the stain that's on part of it and the new that is not finished yet. Here's my dad now. He's just closing in on 86 in this particular picture, and he was always a great help getting this whole thing done. The sawmill that I use is an Alaskan sawmill, but here's one of the trees that I had been cutting up to create the trim around the house. So you can see I've trimmed the windows in the live edge, got the rain gutters on. I like this view. That's the name that we call our property is Oak Cliffs. And you can see all the trim around the door and windows now. At this point, I decided it was time to start building my wood shed. And I used some old reclaimed 4x4s that were pressure treated first. And then I just started milling old down trees to create the roofing for this shed. And it took me a couple of weeks to get the whole thing done because milling does take a little bit of time. But I think it ended up turning out really, really nice. And there you can see it's about 3/4 done. In the process, though, I also went around the other side of the house and started trimming that side out as well with the live edge. And there we go. Finally, I've got the woodshed complete. And it's time to start filling the thing up with some wood. Well, now it's time to start decorating. We've found some old skis, old snowshoes, put those in. Woodshed continues to get worked on and filled. Got rain gutters on. Have my wind generator now up for power in the winter time. And that was a fun installation in the middle of the winter, but it really helps out the place. Some of the homey things that my wife likes to bring in are things like a pathway from where we park. I did these steps so people wouldn't be falling off or jumping off the deck anymore. And again, I milled all the wood, cut the trees, and put it together like that. There's my girl Charlie that we all know this is named after. And now we're finally to some of the things you all have seen. The stripped wood deck getting restained and in a darker color, and really things starting to look a lot more finished up here. You can see I've added additional solar panels. Now I'm adding a cover over my patio and getting that all taken care of. Again, using beams that I put together with glue and screws, 2x6s. This is one of my favorite views of the cabin as I've started to finish it up. And here we are, new roof on the woodshed as well. And there I am, proud of what I've accomplished over the last couple of years here at the cabin. Well, there you have it. A good look at what's happened out here over the last 3 years, let's say. And for the year, I'm done with projects. So let's take a look at everything. Obviously, solar panels and a nice wood shed have been done here. It's getting more full all the time. Tool storage. I think I'll walk you around the outside of this place of what we did, because if you remember earlier in the video, I showed you the footings and stuff that we put in here, and you can't even tell that we ever did anything here. Oak Cliffs, elevation 9120. Love it out here. And I'm sure some will say I need to get my stovepipe higher, but no backdraft from where it's at right now. Eventually I'll get it up another 3 feet or so, but for now it's in good shape. Here are those footings now put underneath here, and because this is up off the ground, we've been able to do storage. My wife hates it, but you know, it's what we do. The trim that's been back here kept one of the rain gutters so that we can still do our water catchment system. Under my deck, once I put that in there, that became a little bit of a storage place for my four-wheelers, so they get protected from a lot of the bad weather. And I'm going to back up here because I think my favorite view of this whole place is from down here by the fire pit. When you look up this way, it is outstanding. This is even grown in from the pictures that you saw where this was all raw dirt. You can see now grass has really filled itself in and locked all of the rocks in place. I'd say the outside of this place looks pretty darn good. Give you a little bit of a close up here of some of the woodwork that I did here. I still have to do, the last thing is trim up along underneath and around those windows. There's our wind generator. And as you all know, the latest addition was the cover on the deck and the restaining of this. Last night I actually put some lights up, and those are actually solar powered with a nice on-off switch. So there you have it. One last look at what's been accomplished out here. And I'll leave you with the way I started talking earlier. We were looking at the solar panels, I believe. And so we'll end with looking at the solar panels. Hope you enjoyed this long look at what it was like to put this whole thing together. I know I enjoyed it more than anything. I hope you have as well. And here's to many, many more adventures out here at the cabin. Thanks for watching.